Nobody in that room expected the number, not the analysts, not the engineers, not even the shareholders who had been following Tesla for years. They had come prepared for updates on EVs, on full self-driving, on quarterly margins. What they got instead was a single figure that quietly rearranged everything they thought they understood about where this company was headed. $10,000. That's what Elon Musk said it costs to build one. A humanoid robot, fully functional. 22 degrees of freedom in each hand, capable of reading your body language, learning your habits, and eventually performing tasks it was never explicitly taught to do. $10,000. When the closest competitor costs anywhere between $100,000 and $250,000, you start to wonder if you heard it wrong. You didn't. And this is where the story starts to get uncomfortable, because the price isn't actually the most important part of what Musk said that day. The price is just the door. What's behind it is something much larger, something that won't fully make sense until you understand what Tesla has quietly been building for the last 2 years, while everyone was still arguing about electric vehicles. But we'll get there first. You need to understand what kind of bet this actually is. Elon Musk has made large claims before. He does it so often that most people have developed a kind of selective hearing around his timelines. They note the destination, quietly discount the date, and move on. That's a reasonable strategy. It's been right more than once. But what makes this moment different? What separates Optimus from every other Musk prediction is what he said about Tesla itself. He said Optimus is the most important product Tesla has ever made. Not the Model S, not the Cybertruck, not full self, the robot, the humanoid robot that, as of today, most people on Earth have never seen in person, never interacted with, and couldn't pick out of a lineup. That robot, according to Musk, could make Tesla worth $25 trillion. Let that number sit for a moment. The entire S&P 500, every major publicly traded company in the United States, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, all of them combined, is currently valued at around $45 trillion. Musk is saying that one product line from one company could be worth more than half of that, not in 100 years. Within a generation, possibly sooner. Most people laugh at this and move on. That's probably the wrong move. Here's what Optimus can actually do right now, because the gap between what people imagine and what's real is where most of the confusion lives. The hands. Start with the hands. 22 degrees of freedom. Human hands have 27. The difference sounds small until you realize what 22 enables. Roughly 70 distinct tasks that require fine motor control. Tasks that, until very recently, were considered essentially impossible for a robot to perform reliably. Musk demonstrated this by saying the next generation of Optimus will be able to play the piano, not press keys. Play. The distinction is the kind of thing that keeps roboticists up at night, but the hands are almost secondary to what's happening. In the learning systems, this is the part that surprised even people who follow the industry closely. With most humanoid robots, you bring it home and spend months training it. You demonstrate tasks repeatedly. You correct errors. You build a narrow, specific library of behaviors through exhausting repetition. That's the current standard. That's what everyone else is doing. Musk says Optimus doesn't work that way. What he described is a system that observes, infers, and adapts based on context, not commands. You rub your stomach, it starts moving toward the kitchen. You frown and point at the lawn, it begins preparing to cut the grass. You don't say anything. You don't program anything. It watches you long enough to understand you, and then it acts on what it's learned by 2026. Musk claims Optimus will be capable of performing tasks it has never been trained. On its all tasks, it figures out by reasoning from everything it already knows. That is either the most significant claim in the history of consumer robotics, or it's the kind of thing that sounds extraordinary in a shareholder meeting and collapses quietly in a testing lab. We don't know which yet. And that uncertainty is exactly what makes this story worth paying attention to. But here's what we do know, and this is the part most coverage has missed entirely. 2. Optimus robots are already working inside a Tesla factory, not in a demo, not in a carefully lit video shot for a press release. Inside an active production facility, performing real work without human supervision. They are sorting 4,680 cell battery packs. They are detecting errors on the line and correcting them autonomously. They are doing this on repeat, at scale, in an environment that is loud and complex and not at all optimized for their benefit. This happened quietly. Most people didn't notice, and Musk's projection for next year is not 100 units or 200. He said 1,000, possibly several thousand. Optimus robots working inside Tesla's factories by the end of 2025. Not prototypes, workers. When a prediction like that is made before deployment has started, it's easy to dismiss, but deployment has already started. The line between announcement and reality has already been crossed, and the only question now is how fast the number grows. This is where the story stops being about one company's ambition and starts being about something harder to look at directly. The reason Tesla can price Optimus at $10,000, while everyone else is nowhere close, has almost nothing to do with robotics. It has everything to do with cars. For the last 15 years, Tesla has been building a supply chain: motors, sensors, cameras, power electronics, AI inference, hardware, battery systems. All of it designed, sourced, tested, and refined through the production of millions of vehicles. What most people don't realize is that almost everything a humanoid robot needs to function, the hardware layer, the compute layer, the sensor layer, Tesla already makes, already sources, already has contracts for at scale. A new competitor entering the humanoid robot market today has to build all of that from zero. No supply chain, no preferred pricing, no manufacturing history, no data. They are starting a race that Tesla began, running more than a decade ago under a completely different name. This is the structural advantage that makes the $10,000 figure not just possible, but potentially defensible. Not immediately, not in 2025, but by 2028, by 2030, as volumes increase and the production line matures, the math starts to work in a way that has no historical precedent in the robotics industry. Goldman Sachs projects the global humanoid robot market will reach $6 billion within the next 10 to 15 years. Musk is projecting trillions. The gap between those two numbers is either the distance between a careful analyst and a reckless optimist, or the distance between someone looking at today and someone looking at a decade from now. It's very difficult to tell from here which is which. The experts are not convinced. That's worth saying clearly, because credibility matters, and this script won't pretend otherwise. Roboticists at Georgia Tech, the University of Sheffield, and Florida State have all commented publicly on Musk's timeline. The consensus is careful and consistent by 2025. They would expect Optimus to demonstrate competent movement and basic object handling, maybe door and window interaction, a year or two after that. As for the more advanced capabilities, Musk described the contextual learning, the unprompted task inference, the personalized adaptation. They are not saying it's impossible. They are saying the timeline is extraordinarily ambitious. One professor described 2025 as ambitious, but not out of the question. That is not a ringing endorsement. It is also not a dismissal. And this is where Musk's history becomes genuinely complicated to interpret. He said full self-driving would be here in 2016. Then 2018, then 2020. The technology is still not fully autonomous in any regulatory sense, but the underlying capability advanced dramatically. The destination was real. The date was wrong. If Optimus follows the same pattern, the most important question isn't whether the 2025 projections hold its, whether the destination itself is real. That question does not yet have an answer. Here is what the lease model tells you that the price doesn't. Musk confirmed that before Tesla sells Optimus to consumers. It will lease the technology. This is not a minor detail. It means that even if the $20,000 price point is real and achievable by 2028 or 2030, most people will not own one. They will pay for access to one, monthly, annually, on terms Tesla controls. Think about what that means at scale. If Tesla has tens of millions of Optimus units deployed globally on lease agreements, the revenue isn't a one-time transaction. It's a recurring stream indefinitely. From households, from businesses, from factories, from governments. Musk has talked about the global labor market being worth many times the entire auto industry combined. He's not wrong about that number. And if Optimus captures even a fraction of it, the $25 trillion valuation stops sounding like a fantasy and starts sounding like arithmetic. This is the moment where the story becomes genuinely difficult to sit with. Because by Musk's own projection, the workforce inside Tesla's factories could shrink by 60% by 2030, not through layoffs exactly, through replacement. And Tesla is not a warning about what might happen across the broader economy. Tesla is the preview